This is your project explanation for your sculpted and adapted wheel throne project. So for this project, you're having the options of either making a bowl or a cylinder that is going to be transformed into something new. You're going to add sculptural elements to the form, moving throughout the walls or adding clay or carving into your vessel to transform that. It must be elaborately done and it must include details. Many, many, many details. Nothing basics like just carving in lines or adding in polka dots or anything like that. You are actually going to be changing it. So a good example of that is the image that you see on the right. So you can see that it was originally wheel thrown. It was an originally wheel thrown base, but then they decided to have a crow dropping something into the middle. So they added on the crow. They added some vines throughout it. They added interesting feet to make it a little bit taller, and they added a handle. It's not plain, it's not boring, it's not basic, it's elaborately done. For your wheel throne requirements, so the thing that you are going to end up adapting is you can either make a cylinder, bowl, or mug. The cylinder must be at least 7 inches tall by 3 inches wide, so that's more if you want a vase. The bowl must be a minimum of 4 inches tall by 7 inches wide, and then if you want to end up adapting a mug, that's going to be 6 inches tall by 4 inches wide. So the overall requirements for that is that you have an even wall thickness, no buildup of clay at the base, proper craftsmanship. It must be either a bowl or a cylinder. The foundation must have smooth walls and it must be made using centered clay. So this can't be something that is uncentered. It has to be centered before you start. The sculpted requirements are a little bit more elaborate. So you must change the original shape of the vessel. So it must be a little bit changed or altered in some way once you start adding other elements to it. You must include added amounts of clay. So the example that I have here is there have fish literally coming off of their vases and a bird on top. So the fish are coming out of the vase, they added on clay, they sculpted it, they did some hand building techniques on there to adapt it. It must be done smoothly and with care. So don't just throw clay on, carve it out, and call it a day. Like you need to actually take the time to carve and add detail and put effort into this. You must follow an overall theme. So it has to all make sense. All the elements that you add onto your project must make sense. So this one went with like a more aquatic theme, and I'll show some examples of that later. Your additions must fill at least half of the original vessel, so half of it needs to be covered or changed or sculpted or carved into, and leave the other half blank. Or if you want to sculpt the whole thing, sculpt the whole thing. Must not be boring or basic, and it should take more than 4 class periods to complete. So it's not meant to be something that's done in a day, it's meant to be something that takes an extended period of time. Here are a few examples. That are just general examples of adding on clay. So we have a vase that has an octopus climbing on top of it. All of that is added onto it. It's done neatly. It's done with care. It looks really cool. This one has faces like protruding from the vessel itself, but it still has like textural marks on it as well that look really cool. So this one just changes the whole form completely. This bowl, it's originally wheel thrown, but then they sculpted and carved out the rim to make it look like there's wings from a bird with 2 bird heads on there. And then this one looks just like a textural vase, but it has a man I think it ended up being a mermaid off of the side. Here are a few more examples of what it looks like when you just add on clay. You can look through these as well. These ones are more nature themed, so they did dragonflies or different types of mushrooms, or a more rainforest theme where it has a frog on it, or another aquatic theme. Here are a few more. These two are yarn bowls, so they have this little curve out in here. So if you put a ball of yarn in the middle, it'll filter through. And I think this one is a yarn bowl too. But this is a good example of how you can add on clay to change the overall feeling and the overall effect of a vessel. If you want to do something that's like a face vessel, you can. So you can add facial features to it to create this personality that's either in your vase or your mug or your bowl. You can make it into a planter so it looks like the hair coming out is the plant of the mug. Or you can just adapt it. Face vessels are really fun to do. If you want to make it into a monster, you can. So instead of doing like human aspects, you can do more monstral aspects and just make it kind of creepy or weird. Can turn it into an animal. If you want to drink out of a cat's head, go right ahead. But this one, they changed the actual form to create something new. So these are some good examples. If you want it to be decorative too, you can add stuff on the inside, like they added teeth. I don't think I'd put coffee in that, but it looks pretty cool. All of these are great examples, though, of how they took a basic form and changed it and switched up to make it something new. So that's what you're going to be doing with this project.